I stood there in the pouring rain, my black dress clinging to my skin like a second layer of grief, as my sister Lila leaned in close during the funeral reception. "Look at you, Elena, pretending to be the perfect daughter," she whispered, her voice dripping with venom, a mocking smile twisting her lips. "Mom and Dad always knew you were the weak one. That's why they trusted me with everything." Her words hit me harder than the loss itself, leaving me frozen, the scent of wet earth and wilting flowers choking the air. The other mourners shifted uncomfortably, but no one intervened. I felt my chest tighten, a mix of shock and humiliation burning in my throat. How could she say that now, of all times? My parents' caskets had just been lowered, and here she was, turning their farewell into her stage. I bit back tears, forcing a nod, but inside, something shattered. A fragile trust I'd clung to all my life. Before that dreadful day, our family life had felt like a warm, steady rhythm, the kind that lulls you into believing nothing could ever break it. I was the younger sister, living in the cozy two-story house in suburban Ohio where Mom and Dad had raised us. Dad was a quiet mechanic, his hands always stained with grease, coming home to the smell of Mom's homemade apple pie cooling on the windowsill. Lila, 5 years older, had always been the bold one, the one who moved to the city for a flashy marketing job, calling home sporadically with tales of her glamorous life. I'd stayed closer, helping with errands, sharing Sunday dinners where we'd laugh over Dad's bad jokes, the clink of forks against plates echoing in our small kitchen. Mom's gentle hugs, scented with lavender soap, were my anchor. Lila visited less often, but when she did, there was a superficial warmth, her quick pecks on the cheek, her stories that always circled back to her successes. I envied her confidence but loved her fiercely, assuming our bond was unbreakable. Work for me was simple. A teacher at the local elementary school, molding young minds with the same patience Mom had taught me. Life was predictable, comforting, until the accident that stole our parents in one cruel swerve on an icy road. The first hint of something wrong came a few weeks before the funeral, during one of those rare family calls. Mom had sounded tired on the phone, her voice thinner than usual, mentioning how Lila had been helping with their finances. "She's so good with numbers, Elena," Mom said. But there was a pause, a slight hesitation that made my stomach twist. I brushed it off. Mom was getting older, after all. Then, at the hospital after the crash, as Dad slipped away, Lila arrived late, her makeup flawless, hugging me briefly before pulling out her phone to handle arrangements. Her eyes darted away when I asked about the will. She waved it off with a laugh. "Don't worry about that now, sis. I've got it covered." It nagged at me, that offhand tone, but grief clouded my thoughts. At the wake, she hovered over the guest book, whispering to relatives about Mom and Dad's wishes. Her gestures sharp, almost possessive. I told myself it was stress, but deep down, a quiet suspicion bloomed, like the faint creak of a door opening in the night. The morning after the burial, I sat alone at the kitchen table in the old house, the same table where Dad used to read the newspaper with his coffee, the pages now yellowed and untouched. The house smelled faintly of Mom's lavender candles, but the scent was already fading, like everything else. I opened the envelope the funeral director had handed me, supposedly a copy of the will for the family file. My hands trembled as I unfolded the crisp legal pages. Everything was left to Lila: the house, the savings accounts, the small life insurance payout. Even the antique cedar chest Mom had promised me since I was 12, the one filled with her wedding dress and baby blankets. My name appeared only once, as a footnote saying I had already received adequate support during my lifetime. Adequate support. I stared at those words until they blurred. I had never asked for money. I had paid my own way through college, taken the smaller bedroom so Lila could have the one with the better view, stayed behind to look after our parents while she chased promotions in Chicago. And now this. I called her that afternoon. She answered on the third ring, voice bright, almost cheerful. "Hey sis, you doing okay?" "Lila, the will. It says everything goes to you." A pause, then a small, practiced sigh. "Yeah, Mom and Dad thought it made the most sense. I handle money better. You know how you get overwhelmed with paperwork. They never told me. They didn't want to upset you. You were always so sensitive." I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. "They promised me the cedar chest. They said it was mine when the time came. Elena, it's just a box. Sentimental value doesn't pay property taxes. I'm selling the house anyway, too many memories. I'll send you a check for half the furniture if it makes you feel better." Half the furniture. As if our childhood could be divided like that. I hung up without another word. The silence in the kitchen was deafening, the old refrigerator humming, the wall clock ticking like it was counting down to something final. I walked upstairs, opened the door to my old bedroom, and sat on the edge of the bed where I used to cry into my pillow after Lila teased me in front of her friends. My reflection in the small vanity mirror looked small, hollowed out. But beneath the ache, something else stirred. A slow, cold clarity. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply picked up my phone again and dialed the number of the family lawyer Dad had used for 30 years. Mr. Harlan, the one who always smelled faintly of peppermint and old books. When he answered, I kept my voice steady. Mr. Harlan, this is Elena. I need to ask you something important. He listened without interrupting as I told him what I'd found. When I finished, there was a long breath on the other end. Elena, he said quietly, there's something you should know. Your parents came to see me 6 months ago. They were worried. They asked me to prepare a second document, a codicil. They didn't tell Lila. My heart thudded once, hard. They were concerned about pressure. They said Lila had been asking for large sums lately, saying it was for investments. They didn't believe her, so they made a new provision. If any part of the original will was contested or if there was evidence of undue influence, everything reverts to a trust. Split equally between you and your sister, administered by me until you both turn 55. I pressed my hand to my mouth. And the cedar chest? Specifically left to you with a handwritten note from your mother attached. She wanted you to have it no matter what. Tears finally came then. Hot, quiet ones that slid down my cheeks and dropped onto the quilt. Not from pain this time, from something deeper. Recognition. Love that had been hidden in paperwork, protected in secret because even at the end, Mom and Dad were still trying to shield me. I thanked Mr. Harlan and asked him to prepare the necessary letters. Then I sat in the quiet house for a long time, listening to the rain tap against the window like gentle fingers, reminding me I wasn't as alone as I'd felt. 2 weeks later, the letter arrived, formal cream stationery. Mr. Harlan's careful handwriting on the envelope. I didn't open it right away. I sat on the front porch instead. The same porch swing where Dad used to read detective novels aloud to Mom on summer evenings. The chains creaking softly in the breeze. The air smelled of cut grass from the neighbor's mower, sharp and clean, cutting through the heaviness that still clung to me. When I finally tore the seal, the words were simple and devastating in their clarity. Lila was informed that same day. I wasn't there for the phone call, but Mr. Harlan told me later how quiet she became. No shouting, no excuses, just a long silence, then one sentence. They really didn't trust me, did they? The family gathering happened the following Saturday. I'd asked Mr. Harlan to host it at his office, neutral ground, no memories to twist. Relatives came. Aunt Ruth with her pinched mouth, Cousin Mark who always tried to stay out of drama, a handful of neighbors who'd known Mom and Dad for decades. Lila arrived last, heels clicking on the hardwood floor, wearing the same navy blazer she'd worn to the funeral. She looked smaller somehow, the confidence stripped away like cheap paint. Mr. Harlan read the codicil aloud in his measured, unhurried voice. Every line landed like a stone dropped into still water. The trust, the equal split, the handwritten note from Mom, which he passed to me first. I unfolded it with shaking fingers. Her familiar looping script. My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, it means we had to protect you one last time. You were never weak, sweetheart. You were steady. The cedar chest is yours because you always understood what lasts. Forgive if you can. Love doesn't erase mistakes, but it outlives them. Forever your Mom. I pressed the paper to my chest. Across the room, Lila stared at the floor. When Mr. Harlan finished, no one spoke for a full minute. Then Aunt Ruth cleared her throat. Lila, honey, did you know they were worried? Lila lifted her eyes, red-rimmed, but dry. I thought they were just old, paranoid. I told myself I was helping. Her voice cracked on the last word. I needed the money, badly. A bad investment. A loan I couldn't repay. I thought if I controlled everything, I could fix it before anyone found out. The room exhaled. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. The kind that hurts to give. I stood up slowly. Everyone watched me. I walked over and placed Mom's note on the table in front of Lila. Read it, I said quietly. She did. Her shoulders began to shake. When she looked up, her face was raw. I mocked you at the funeral because I was terrified, she whispered. If I could make you small, maybe no one would see how small I felt. I'm sorry, Elena. I'm so damn sorry. I didn't hug her. Not then. But I didn't walk away either. I simply nodded once. I don't know what forgiveness looks like yet, I told her. But I know what cruelty looks like. And I'm tired of both of us carrying it. The house sold 3 months later. We split the proceeds as the trust required. I took my half and the cedar chest. Inside, wrapped in tissue, was Mom's wedding veil and a tiny pair of baby shoes. Mine, not Lila's. I cried again then, but the tears felt lighter. Today the house belongs to a young family. I drive by sometimes just to see the porch swing still there, swaying gently. Lila and I don't talk often. Holidays are careful. But she calls on Mom's birthday. I answer. We speak about small things, the weather, a recipe, the way the lilacs bloomed early this year. It isn't healed. It's mending. And that's enough for now. Life teaches us the hardest lessons through the people we love most. Sometimes betrayal wears a familiar face. Sometimes protection hides behind silence. But truth, when it finally speaks, doesn't shout. It simply stands there, steady and patient, waiting for us to catch our breath and decide who we want to become. If someone you loved turned their back on you at your lowest moment, would you still leave the door open? Tell me in the comments below. And if this story touched something in you, consider subscribing to Broken Trust Stories. There are more voices out there, waiting to be heard.